morning, everybody, and welcome to this Thursday morning webinar. My name is Chloe Tetro. I am the coaching lead here with Ready Care. For today, we're going to be looking at the topic of healthy skin, mostly how to achieve it from the inside out. So you might notice yourself how a heavy, sugary, greasy meal can lead to specific breakouts the next day. So that is a clue that healthy skin starts underneath the surface from the inside out. Now, creams and cleansers and potions and lotions can help, but what you eat will matter more than what you apply. So we'll have a look at that connection between gut health, inflammation, skin clarity, blood sugar, and we'll clarify what skin health means and how to achieve it from the inside out. So we'll have a look at zooming in on specific nutrients, zooming out and looking at big picture habits and how those can help to be incorporated in your everyday and keep your complexion nice and clear. So what's meant by healthy skin? And this is something I always wonder what you actually mean when we start on any of these topics. So how do you know that you have or don't have? Does this apply to you? Does it not? Right. So healthy skin is usually clear, smooth, hydrated, and free of persistent redness, flaking, painful breakouts. It is age dependent. So, if you're 85, don't expect yourself to have the skin of a 12-year-old. But overall, they're the kind of basic ones to look out for. Clear, smooth, hydrated, and free of redness, itching, flakiness. So your skin functions as a barrier. It regulates temperature and reflects your internal well-being. So unhealthy skin then, on the flip side, might appear dull, grey. It might appear oily, inflamed, or prematurely aging. So that can often be a signaler of hormonal imbalance, inflammation, and gut disruption. It can also appear quite dry, that kind of looking for a bit of moisture, and it's not kind of water moisture, it's inside out type of moisture. So the food skin connection, how does diet shape your complexion? Which I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but look, we're here now. So food directly shapes the landscape of your skin through your hormones, inflammation, gut function, and nutrient delivery. When you eat, you're not just feeding yourself, you're feeding your hormones, you're feeding your immune system, your gut bacteria, and your cells' repair mechanisms. So diets high in refined sugars, ultra-processed foods, the foods that have about 30 different ingredients when you look at the back of them, they cause spikes that contribute to inflammation, insulin surges, and oil gland overactivity as a byproduct of those. So these changes can look like acne, oiliness, and accelerated aging. So nutrient-dense foods like low glycemic foods, things like leafy greens, berries, nuts, fatty fish, eggs, the usuals I usually bang on about here, they'll supply vitamins, antioxidants, and building blocks that help your skin to repair, hydrate, and defend itself. Now, that old chestnut of you are what you eat. Well, essentially, you need the building blocks you'll be getting from food because your body, your cells, everything's constantly regenerating. So it needs new Lego blocks that will build a good foundation, good structural integrity, and a healthy version of those Lego blocks. If all you ever have are foods that are very tasty, but the nutritional listing of them is sparse and, made up of 121 things you can't pronounce on the back of it, your body can't do much with it. So after a period of time, the blocks you would have needed from nutrient-dense foods are not coming in, and that's when things start to break down a little bit. Now, one of the places you'll start to see it first are the outward signs, things like your nails, your skin, your hair. They'll all become a little bit duller because you have to think of if your body's not getting fuel to replenish, build, and repair, it's going to start to say, okay, what's the most important things that we need to use up our dwindling resources here towards keeping the integrity of. It'd be things like your heart, your organs, your digestion, things that are very, very important. Everything else will be seen as, look, we don't have the resources for that. So, food will also impact your collagen, which is your skin structural protein. There's 1,001 different products out there that will say, oh, this collagen's better than that collagen, than this collagen, than that collagen, and you might have to take out a second mortgage for it. But really, you can build and protect your own collagen. Now, after the age of 35, all of our collagen starts to decline by about 1% per year. General figure, maybe not as accurate, depending on how you look after it. So some of the things that can help to keep collagen, which is responsible for plumpness in the skin, healthiness in the skin, that kind of that glow in and of itself, you can look after in your diet as well. So things like sugar molecules will absolutely damage collagen via what's called glycation. So that makes your skin stiffer and more prone to little wrinkles starting. So on the flip side, a diet that's rich in vitamin C and protein and antioxidant compounds will support your collagen production and your longevity. So foods high in vitamin C would be fruits, vegetables, any of the above ground vegetables that I chat about incorporating here, things that are colorful. The more colorful something is, usually, but not always, usually the more vitamin C it's going to have. You can get vitamin C from leafy greens as well. You can get them from a very colorful plate will often have an awful lot of vitamin C in it. It's not just oranges. Oranges are a source of it, but they're not your major source of it. You get it in tomatoes, you get it in peppers, all the lovely colorful summer veg. And proteins. So proteins are one of the most important building blocks because whereas carbohydrates will more or less, pass through with not a huge amount of building your body coming from the carbohydrates, proteins break down into what are called, amino acids. So going back to that Lego block analogy that I used a while ago, if you think of being made up as a Lego person, proteins are where you're going to get the best blocks from it. So amino acids basically fill in for your connective tissues, your muscles, bone density, all these different things that you absolutely need to have. It's not just for looking buff, although that also helps. So protein will be a huge one. Protein helps if you've noticed your skin, hair, and nails starting to, your hair not starting to grow, your nails getting a little bit flaky, breaking, brittle, all these different things. Protein is absolutely fantastic for that. If you try it out for a few weeks and get your protein intake up quite a bit, so that'll be things like any animal protein, eggs, cheese, tofu, tempeh for the veggies out there, fish, edamame beans. Did I say eggs? If I didn't, eggs as well. Or even protein shakes that are low in carbohydrates and sugars. All of these things will help your hair growth hugely. Hair growth is something that particularly women in their 40s to 50s, 60s start to see a diminution in the hair growth and nail growth. Protein's absolutely brilliant for that. So plow on with the protein. It's not going to do you any harm. So certain foods like fermented vegetables and bone broth will also support your gut microbiome, which I'll get into in a little bit more detail in a minute. They'll reduce systemic inflammation. So systemic inflammation just means inflammation that's not just happening in your inflamed finger because you have a little touch of gout or arthritis. It is inflammation that's throughout your whole body. That's all that's meant by systemic. And it will indirectly benefit skin clarity. So you want to be staying away from things like artificial sweeteners, particularly aspartame, trans fats, and excess dairy for some people. So some people that have a bit of difficulty with acne are seeing that there's a link with dairy. Dairy in and of itself doesn't cause these things, but if somebody is having a flare-up or sensitivity, lots of people, particularly with sebaceous gland difficulties and acne, will say that excess dairy can sometimes exacerbate the symptoms for them. So your plate influences your pores. A skin supportive diet isn't just, a quick fix, something that you do when you get a symptom. You've got a pimple, and for that week you're going to eat really well. It really needs to be a adaptation over a longer period of time. It will lead to fewer breakouts, smoother texture, improved hydration, and healthier glow, which are all of our signs for healthy skin. So if you start to think of your meals as your skincare routine, that will not only benefit your skin, hair, and nails, but also your heart, your metabolism, etc., etc., etc. Good food is expensive, unfortunately, some of the times, depending on where you're living. It's cheaper in supermarkets sometimes to get ultra processed foods, and I do understand that, you know, everybody's under a bit of a pinch at the moment, so getting organic might not be, you know, everybody's, you know, on everybody's list of abilities, but even little swap outs to, you know, specific meat instead of hyper processed versions of the meats, they will all matter. 1% more towards healthy is worth, you know, if you can do that incrementally, week by week, if not day by day, and just look after these things and make little swap outs, over time, your whole diet is going to shift. It can go in the opposite direction, and we've all been there where we've seen our diets slip up quite, we'll say not quickly, but incrementally, and that's the 1% in the other direction. You can make it go in the direction that you want it to, and I promise it will all have a huge, massive benefit. It is never going to do you any harm to eat healthier. And it's actually far less expensive than some of the creams out on the market. I gave myself a fright following a targeted ad recently, and I thought, God almighty tonight, who is affording this? Anyway, so the insulin connection then, check off your bingo sheet. I said insulin. Refined carbohydrates and sugar will spike your blood sugar, which we all know by now, which trigger a surge in insulin, the hormone that lowers your blood glucose. We know this by now. So those spikes cause widespread inflammation and stimulate excess oil, or sebum in the land of skin talk, oil production in the skin. So both are major contributors to acne. Side note, because insulin is pro-inflammatory, if you have any other inflammatory conditions, be it arthritis, colitis, anything ending in itis, high insulin is basically going to produce more cytokines, produce more inflammation in your body. So if you're suffering a little bit from inflammatory conditions, or someone that you know and love is suffering a little bit from inflammatory conditions, it's no harm to reduce carbohydrates, because they will reduce the insulin, which will reduce inflammation. It's like a little domino effect. So your insulin also raises levels of what's called insulin-like growth factor 1, which is not a very catchy name. It increases oil gland activity and skin cell turnover, leading to clogged pores. Now, I mentioned dairy a while ago, and unfortunately, lots of people will focus on dairy and not look at the carbohydrates and not look at insulin, which have a much, much greater impact overall. Oftentimes, there's a false correlation between, if I'm suffering from fats, I should get rid of fats, right? So, oh, my skin's very oily, I should get rid of avocados, nuts, seeds, I should get rid of butter because they have oil, therefore it stands maybe to reason that if I eliminate those, the oiliness in my skin will go. But actually, the oiliness is being produced in your skin as a byproduct of insulin, raising that insulin-like growth factor, which is a byproduct of too much consumption of carbohydrates. And when I say these things, I absolutely don't mean that you don't have them ever again. It's just looking at the ratio of which you eat them. You know, if you've got a perfectly good roast beef, do you need to slap it between two slices of bread, or can you have it either by itself or with the fillings, things like a salad, as opposed to, you know, sandwiching it between two slices of bread, which aren't really doing anything beneficial in the body. So clinical trials in Australia and Korea I mention here because they are, for anybody on social media, Korea are absolutely, you know, they have quote unquote, if I'm to believe social media, the absolute best skincare in the world. But to be fair, there is a great culture of looking after skin there. Um, so this clinical trial in both Australia and Korea found that people with acne who followed a low glycemic index, so that is a low sugar and low carbohydrate, low processed food diet for 10 to 12 weeks, had significantly fewer pimples than those eating a high GI diet. On the other hand, Turkish researchers found the worst acne in those eating the most high glycemic index foods. There's an awful lot out there to put the two together, and it's difficult. And that's the thing is sometimes it's easier to buy a cream than to make changes on particular foods that bring you comfort, that are ingrained in your habits. But essentially, it's starting from the inside out. And as I said, don't feel that you have to do everything overnight if that's overwhelming for you. Take things little by little. Every shop that you do a little bit more of the whole foods and a little bit less of the processed foods. So, inflammation, we talked a little bit on. I'll just say another few lines on that because it's important. So, inflammation is the silent contributor to skin problems and premature aging. That sugar is going to drive glycation, where excess glucose binds to collagen. That creates that stiff cross-linked structures called advanced glycation end products. All very catchy name. Great acronym though, AGES. Skin ages. So ages break down collagen and elasticity. They cause wrinkles and sagging. And dermatologists, which I can never say that properly, dermatologists, there we go, refer to it as sugar sag. So studies out there show that AGE levels rise. As they rise, skin becomes less elastic and more prone to yellowing as well as wrinkling. So inflammation underlies many common skin issues, things like acne, eczema, psoriasis, and they are all worsened by overproduction of insulin and stress. So a low-carb diet can reduce sugar, insulin, inflammatory markers and help calm these underlying processes. So a little bit more about that gut connection. Your microbiome plays a huge role in the health of your skin. When it's in balance, your beneficial bacteria will help control inflammation and your immune responses. When you've got what's called dysbiosis, not the Cork version, dysbiosis over there, which is how I talk, not that, but dysbiosis, can't even spell it. Dysbiosis, it basically means your gut bacteria is a little bit all over the place and there's an overrun. There's more bad bacteria than there is good bacteria, and bad bacteria love eating crappy foods, right? So they love things high in sugar, high in all these things that are difficult to pronounce at the back of the packet. They thrive on those, and they create an environment where the bacteria that's trying to protect you, help your immune function, help your skin, help your digestion, help your bowel habits, they're all dying off and being taken over by these villain bacteria. So it's very important to keep your gut health. If you're somebody that suffers from skin difficulties, get your gut health in a good place. So that would be your non-starchy vegetables, fermented foods for some. I personally cannot have fermented foods because anybody within a 1 mile radius of me will absolutely rue the day. Read between those lines. So things that are whole foods, above ground vegetables, low sugar, low fructose, good fibers, things like chia seeds, flax seeds, and you get loads of fiber. Do not worry about missing out on grains. You get loads of fiber from leafy greens. They're all going to help your gut bacteria. And if worse comes to worse, there are lots of fantastic probiotics out there. So there's lots of specific nutrients that are going to help. Things like omega-3 fats, and that can be from fish, nuts like walnuts, avocados, flax seeds. They are huge anti-inflammatory nutrients that will reduce acne lesions if you have them, and they'll support that skin barrier. Omega-3s are brilliant anyway, particularly if you're female. They're absolutely fantastic. And if you're not taking some, even adding a little bit in your diet through chia seeds is absolutely fantastic. Vitamin C, I mentioned a while ago. What was it in relation to? It helps collagen formation. So rather than buy a very expensive collagen and vitamin C supplement, start small, start local. Get some nice bell peppers into you, get some greens, get some berries. Make a smoothie if you're not a big greens and berries eater. You don't have to all of a sudden, develop a totally different palate. But there are cheaper, better ways of getting these foods into you than absolutely dropping a bomb on a supplement. Vitamin E, you'd get from nuts, seeds, and avocados. They'll protect your skin cells from what's known as oxidative stress. So when you hear people talk about antioxidants as being good, it's because they're stopping this process called oxidative stress, which basically ages your skin and is not good for your body cells overall. So vitamin A, which you'd get from eggs, liver, which hell would have to freeze over. My skin would have to absolutely fall off my cranium for me to go down the route of liver, but some people love it. So liver is a brilliant source of vitamin A. Eggs, carrots, leafy greens, orange and red vegetables by and large. They have what's called carotenoids. So they regulate your skin cell turnover. They reduce oil and protect against UV damage, which is brilliant. And if you eat way too many of them, you'll get this beautiful orange glow. Protein and collagen from meat, eggs, bone broth, any protein sources really. They provide those amino acids Lego blocks that are needed for skin repair and collagen synthesis. And then, how am I for time? I'm not too bad. Hydration and electrolytes, very important. So remember I was talking about skin hydration looking like it's not quite there. So water just by itself won't always cut the mustard when it comes to hydration. So you could be drinking water to beat the band and your skin is still not feeling hydrated. You're not really feeling hydrated and you're going, gosh, I have other things to do now all day than to be walking in and out of the loo all day. So hydration also comes from electrolytes, right? Electrolytes will have magnesium, potassium, and sodium. It's naturally occurring in coconut water. It's if you're at home, what's that thing called? It's not Bisto. Something like that, those kind of brown drinks people drink. I can't remember. They're a great source of it. But having potassium-rich veggies, or people often think of bananas, which I would usually say do not have them if you're somebody suffering from acne, mucus, and all those lovely different things, because they're exceedingly high in sugar. They produce phlegm in the body. And bacon, if you're a meat eater, is a much better source of potassium. You're also going to get your sodium in there. So oddly enough, a bit of bacon in your day, coupled with water, coupled with magnesium, which you get from your green leafies, is going to help hugely towards your skin hydration. So that's an odd one now. Zooming out now and finishing up so I don't lull you all to sleep. Few daily habits. So staying low glycemic, surprise, surprise. Surprise. So that's avoiding sugars and avoiding excess carbohydrates. I'm not saying don't have a bit of bread, rice, pasta, this, that, the other once in a while, but there is no need to have them make up so much of a plate and so much of your day's worth, because you're far better off with meats if you're a meat eater, tofu tempeh, vegetables, nuts, seeds, all the other stuff. You'll get a lot more out of it for your skin, hair, nails health. Sleep and stress go hand in hand. So poor sleep impairs skin regeneration and raises cortisol. So your chronic stress, remember I was chatting about it a while ago. Chronic stress also drives up inflammation, worsens acne, eczema, and psoriasis. But the secondary effect of why sleep and stress is probably quicker, it's more likely to affect you quicker, is when you're tired and you're stressed, what do you crave? most people don't crave beef. Most people don't crave spinach. They'll crave a packet of crisps, a donut if you're me. I can't be perfect either, lads. 2 donuts, actually, if I'm very stressed. You've a tendency to crave high sugar foods when you're stressed and when you're tired. That is no moralistic failing on your behalf. It's literally your brain running out of glucose and it's saying, we need more energy. I don't care where it comes from. I need sugar. And this is where the sugar is going to come from. So being mindful of your sleep and trying your best, if you have skin difficulties that you're dealing with, try your best to keep your stress and your sleep under control. Now, it will help as a primary thing, but that'll take a while. Your skin regenerates about once a month, in different cycles. So it takes a while for it to come into effect, but in a more immediate way, if you're stressed and if you're tired, you're more likely to crave foods that are going to inflame you, get that insulin up, and drive the whole thing batty all over again. So exercise will increase your circulation, improve oxygen delivery to your skin. Lovely little flush. That'll clean things out for you. Older adults who exercise had skin similar to younger participants, and that's basically you're cleaning things out, right? If your circulation and your lymphatic system, which is your lymphatic system is a secondary system that sits on top of your circulation, your blood system, but the word has just gone out of my head. Your lymphatic system gets rid of fat, right? And lots of different things, but fat being one of them. So if you ever notice cellulite at the back of your thighs, that's your lymphatic system. If you ever notice a little bit of, puffiness around here, that's usually your lymphatic system. So the better you basically get your blood pumping, the more it's going to help your lymphatic system to get rid of debris, detritus, any rubbish in the system, because it essentially helps your system to flush things out. The problem with the lymphatic system is it doesn't have its own pump, right? Your heart is pumping your circulatory system. Your lymphatic system doesn't have one. So it requires you to move, or, that's why when people have cellulite or build up around here, they'll tell you do tapping, do a bit of this, that, and the other thing, use a roller for the back of your thighs, use a brush. It's because it doesn't have its own system. Now, it's popped on top of your circulatory system. So if your blood's pumping, it's going to move your lymph a little bit as well. So that's going to help your skin overall. And avoid smoking, which is no shock to anybody. So if it starts to get a little bit out of control and you're finding things difficult to manage by yourself, have a chat with a doctor, have a chat with a dermatologist, but try out eating fewer processed foods, eating fewer carbohydrates. Try that for a month, right? See how you get on. It's absolutely fantastic for psoriasis, particularly. If you've got something very reactive, it's absolutely brilliant for that, right? Hope you found that interesting and I didn't bore anybody to tears. And I will see you guys next time. Bye now.